It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe. Thank you for being with us on this very special day across the greater West Bloomfield area and beyond. It is Election Day. The day is finally here, and people are already out and about at polling locations across West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake, as well as our team out and about in the community on this election day. Jake Schaff is with us live out in the prettiest little city in Michigan with more updates as he's talked to residents out in the Tri-Cities hitting the polls on this Tuesday. Jake.
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, Tyler. I am here live outside of the Sylvan Lake Community Center on this very windy election day. And already you've seen people really racing to the polls and making their voices heard. I also took a stop earlier in the day to the Keego Harbor Community Center and saw a very similar environment there as well. Residents from all across the four communities are getting ready to cast their vote. And Sylvan Lake resident Jack Hunger told me before he hit the polls to cast his vote, he hopes that his neighbors in the prettiest little city don't shy away from the importance of local races as all of the attention focuses on the presidential contest.
Well, you know, our system's set up that local is important. And we've got an amazing community here in Sylvan Lake. I've lived here all my life, and you know, everybody needs to have a voice. Everybody needs to be involved, and it's, you know, this is America. We vote. We get a voice. It's a beautiful thing.
Residents like Jack, as well as Keego Harbor's Amanda Daniels, are looking forward to this election cycle coming to a close and told me what they hope to see as the results come in and people carry on with their life after the election.
Seeing how things progress and change, seeing how my vote affected things, and just gonna be glad the ads are all over.
Well, obviously this is a very unusual and strange year. A lot of division out there means a lot to a lot of people. So, you know, either way that it turns out, I hope we can keep on being friends and keep being proud of the country that we live in.
Absolutely. That's all anyone would ever want. And it's great to see all this excitement and this enthusiasm for the voting season. And we're going to be seeing that all throughout the day, Tyler. I guarantee it.
Jake Schaff with us live out at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. Thank you so much, Jake. We'll continue to send you about the community today all across West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake as residents cast their vote on this final day before we have action on many of these key races. Thank you so much, Jake.
Of course. Thank you, Tyler.
Jake Schaff live out in Sylvan Lake. Also on our team, Kevin McIntosh out and about this morning as we look at some of the key races across the greater West Bloomfield area in this election. All eyes may be on the presidency, but our local elections, as Amanda Daniels had said from Keego Harbor and Jack Hunger from Sylvan Lake had mentioned, really critical in our community. And chief among all of those, perhaps, is the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education. They have 3 open spots on the school board and 5 candidates running for office in there. We know it's a tentpole issue for sure in the Tri-Cities, in particular in Keego Harbor, with the future of the Roosevelt School still sort of up in the air at this time. 5 candidates on the ballot. 2 are incumbent. Of course, Carol Finkelstein, who would have been the 3rd incumbent candidate in this election should she have ran for re-election, did not elect to do so, as she's now on the Oakland Schools Board of Education. But that's going to be a huge race in West Bloomfield and across the Tri-Cities, as well as the future of that board is made today. Also in the Tri-Cities in Keego Harbor, their police millage up on the ballot today for residents in the heart of the lakes. It would extend the millage of up to 4 mills per year, which is currently in process and runs through 2026. Extend that out another 8 years to 2034 and help the city continue to fund its police services and improve those over the years. Plenty more down the ballot that's going to be really important across the greater West Bloomfield area today. But as residents make their way to the polls, they're telling us a number of different things about their experience, why they're going to the polls today, and what inspires them as they cast their vote. Kevin McIntosh joins us live from out in West Bloomfield at another one of our polling locations. Kevin.
Thank you, Tyler. Live outside of Drake Sports Park on Drake Road in West Bloomfield between Maple and 14 Mile. Precinct 6 is where we are right now. A lot of voters coming in on election day to cast their vote. A very gray, gloomy day, very windy, and although the wind is swaying these political yard signs back and forth, it's not swaying anyone coming in casting that vote. From the first time voter all the way to the fifth and beyond time in here to let their voice be heard in an election that everyone is saying very, very important for the state of Michigan, but it's also very vital within Oakland County. We're getting a lot of people saying they're just relieved after they cast their vote, saying they're finally able to stop spam text messages and commercials that they're seeing.
Kevin, I'm going to stop you right there because we're obviously, as you can tell from being out in the field, very windy day out there. We're having some issues with your microphone, but we do appreciate your insight. We'll continue to have you out in the field today as we talk to more residents across the greater West Bloomfield area about the election. Very important day across America, including right here in greater West Bloomfield. Kevin McIntosh with us live at Drake Sports Park in West Bloomfield. Thank you so much. We'll continue on with some of the key votes that are going to be decided by you today in greater West Bloomfield down the ballot. We talked about the police millage in Keego Harbor. A millage that affects all of the greater West Bloomfield area is also the West Bloomfield Library millage. This would replace the current millage that was voted into effect by voters in 2010, went into effect in 2012, and runs through 2026. Would authorize the library to make a slight increase in their levy from that millage from the current 0.6586 to a 0.7 level. Ultimately, a little bit more funding from your tax dollars that would ultimately go to maintenance and continued capital improvements at both the main library and the West Acres branch. That is what they are pushing for with this millage today. And should it pass, that's what they would aim for with those extra dollars. Should it not pass, business as usual at the library. Again, it's all about your voice and your vote today in the greater West Bloomfield area. Keeping it at the West Bloomfield Library, there's also positions open on the library board. We joined with the League of Women Voters Oakland area last month for a candidate forum. 8 candidates running for just 6 open seats on that board, and plenty to decide on the future of the West Bloomfield Public Library, which serves not only West Bloomfield, but the Tri-Cities as well. One of the more interesting down-ballot initiatives is in the city of Orchard Lake Village, where Jerry McCallum is their director of city services, effectively is the city manager out there. But there are some discrepancies that come into play when you aren't by name and title the city manager. So a proposal on the ballot that would change his title currently to city manager, establish that office in the city, which would help them with some regulatory affairs should that pass. If not, they have their workarounds already in place that have been able to run their city business for decades already. So another important decision, one that's more of the interesting ones down the ballot, and so much more. Now, we're going to follow along with all these races. We're going to give you results should we have unofficial results on the program on Wednesday of this week after all is said and done here in Oakland County. But in the meantime, CivicCenterTV.com, right on our homepage, direct at the top, we will have a link to the unofficial election results from Oakland County that will allow you to follow along with all of these races. You'll click on that slider at the top of our page, and you'll be able to get access to the Oakland County unofficial results and follow along with them as we follow along with them as well. Now, as you cast your vote today, you may take home a token of honor designed by one of our very own from right here in the greater West Bloomfield area. West Bloomfield High School student Michelle Lakeman was one of the many students across the state that was chosen as a winner of the state's I Voted sticker contest earlier on this year. Michelle joined Kevin McIntosh on The Splash in October to tell him a little bit about how she went about designing this sticker that you see on your screen, and maybe you'll even pick up today at your polling location.
I was in art class, and there was just like a fun little day where we got to do that. And so I just looked at like inspo, and I just saw like, cause our Michigan's thing is like deers, and then like a lot of people teacher liked to ski, so I just kind of combined those, and I used colored pencils. They weren't that good quality, but they made it. They got the job done.
And the sticker turned out with great quality. Here's a picture from this morning as the first votes were being cast in Greater West Bloomfield. A resident sent this to the West Bloomfield School District to show off their version of Michelle's sticker they picked up at the polls. So they're already being distributed all throughout the community, and this has inspired our students like Michelle to get more involved in our politics, in our elections, in the issues that matter in our local area. Michelle also told our Kevin McIntosh about how this contest and her process and her art has inspired her to get more involved in what's going on in our community.
I feel like if I won this, I can say things that help out and change, and I feel like that makes me think that other kids, if they really want to, they can also make a change. But I think what really helped me was the fact that my art teacher presented me with the opportunities. So I think it's important for schools to inform kids that things like this are happening.
Yeah, it really is a great point that Michelle made there, that there are a lot of these opportunities in the politics and civics club that is in existence at West Bloomfield High School. They ran their mock election on Monday of this week. They're getting more involved. They're inspiring kids to get more involved. And a great reaction to this I Voted sticker over the last month or so since it was announced statewide that Michelle had been one of the winners of this contest. She even told Kevin McIntosh from our team that she felt a little bit of that reaction quite strongly from the people of Greater West Bloomfield and really put a smile on her face.
I got a lot of people telling me congratulations. I feel a little bit kind of like you said, I feel a little bit like a celebrity right now, so.
Definitely a local celebrity here in Greater West Bloomfield. Her sticker will be available at many of our local precincts, both in Greater West Bloomfield, surrounding areas, and across the state. And if you want to see more of what she had to say to Kevin McIntosh about this special I Voted sticker, that interview available on demand on civiccentertv.com. And while you're out and about today, you want to spread some positivity on a day where, look, a lot of people are going to be a little bit nervous, maybe a little on edge, maybe a little too anxious following along with this election. Go to the West Bloomfield School District's Facebook page at West Bloomfield Schools, where they posted that picture we showed you just a moment ago. And you can give Michelle her due congratulations as she plays a big role in our elections all across Greater West Bloomfield today. As I mentioned, this is the time of the year where people are really going to be thinking about the future of our country, the future of our local area, the election results. When are we going to know who's the president-elect? Are we going to know that this week? Everything that surrounds the rhetoric around the election can be quite stressful for a lot of people. Kevin McIntosh from our team had a chance to talk to Sarah Mendelson from Ellie Mental Health in West Bloomfield about some ways that people in our community can navigate the stressors of election day and election season.
We want to just kind of break down how this election and the politics season is affecting people's mental health. We want to take our steps with this. From your perspective personally, how have you seen maybe some of your clients be affected mentally by this political season?
Yeah, it's impacting people greatly. I think I really have the privilege of seeing a variety of people in a diverse population. So I get to see kind of the deep thoughts and feelings that a lot of people are going through across, different parties. But I think some of the similarities I'm really noticing are people are afraid. People are really afraid at what the outcomes are and what the implications are for this election. And really, people are exhausted at this point. They're feeling bombarded by messaging and sometimes confused, unsure of what the other party or candidate's intentions are, what could happen. But also one of the encouraging things I'm noticing is that there seems to be a lot of shared hope. People seem to want an end to this divisiveness. They want to come together and find more common ground. So like I said, it's been a privilege to be in the mix to see what people are thinking on this. And I think we have more similarities than differences.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to meet, that common ground area where we all have similarities and not these differences. We understand that this political or election season is not only just affecting our personal mental health, but it's also, let's be honest, it's affecting some relationships with friends and families and things of that nature. How can someone maintain a healthy relationship with their friends or families who may have different political views from them?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. It's important to have boundaries, to know when you're kind of at your limit with some of these conversations, and to make a choice of, is it more important for me to maintain this relationship and kind of just put this aside and focus on the things that we have in common or the
Hmm.
strengths that we have in our relationship, or do I really want to hammer in my point? And sometimes it's not worth it to get into that argument with people. So knowing where to set those boundaries and how to communicate anger and disagreement in healthy ways. And sometimes people need support with learning how to do that.
Hmm.
Those are the top suggestions I would say.
You know what? We I've heard a lot more often that people say we need to go back to the days where people kept their political opinion to themselves, and that's what kept everybody a little bit more happy and more civil and things of that nature. But we are where we are. With that being said, do you have any strategies that you recommend for people who are feeling overwhelmed by the constant election news cycle?
Certainly. Yes, it's a difficult balance because you want to stay informed and you want to know what's
Hmm.
going on and be a part of things. You want to feel like you're making an effort to make a difference, but there's a limit to that. So again, even setting your own personal boundaries. Sometimes people will set like digital breaks of, I take my 15, 30 minutes in the morning to catch up on things, and then I'm just trying to tune out for the day and catch up again at night. So setting those digital breaks. Another helpful thing that we're coming to learn is some people have chosen to go to reading their news only instead of consuming
Mm.
visual media. Although it's not pure, it's not like devoid of the manipulations and misinformation. It doesn't give us that same emotional intensity that we get from viewing media. So it can be helpful to just read the news. And then another thing is focusing on factors within your control. Um, what other things you can do. I'm a big fan of going back to the basics. So am I sleeping enough? Am I eating well? Am I drinking water? Have I been kind of pulling back and neglecting my friendships, my social life, other hobbies and interests? There's this feeling that my life is on hold until this election is done. This anticipation I can't really move forward, and people are kind of losing track of the other things that are important in their lives. So back to basics.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm one of those people too, I'm gonna be honest. I have been getting so many spam text messages, like
Uh,
five. Literally, as we speak, I just got another one. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait for November 6th so this can all
yes.
be over with. I'm one of those people. But join us right here live on The Splash, clinic director and clinical health psychologist from Ellie Mental Health, Sarah Mendelson, talking about how we can all better manage our mental health during this political and election season. Now, one question I want to ask, a lot of people are saying this is the most important election of all time. I've been alive long enough to hear that probably every 4 years. Do you see any real difference in pressures from this election than you've seen in other elections?
Yeah, you're right. It's not like this is the first spicy election cycle. Politics is a theater. So this isn't new, but this has been quite an exciting plot. And I think that really this does stand out. It does have a difference compared to other elections. One of the things is there's been so much more buildup and anticipation compared to other election cycles. I mean, just in the past few months, we've had assassination attempts. We've had even like a change in primary candidate selection. So it's almost like watching a sports game, and in the past, or a big rivalry sports game, and in the last few minutes
Mm,
there's
yeah.
injuries, there's even a player being traded in the middle of the game, and it's just a lot of excitement. So I think that's amping up this sense of anticipation and uncertainty that we're feeling. And really there's fears about outcomes that seem
Mm-hmm.
significantly different than previous elections. The American Psychological Association puts out a stress in America report every year, and they just put theirs out for October, in October for 2024. And politics was at the top for things that people are stressed about, along with things like the economy, housing, stuff like that.
Right.
But more than 7 out of 10 adults said that they were significantly stressed about the future of our nation. So it does feel different. And some of the biggest concerns that people are experiencing are they're concerned about the results leading to violence, or even
Mm-hmm.
the end of our democracy. So it does feel different. It's real.
It's very, very unfortunate that fear is pushing a lot of, a lot of people's emotions and things of that nature. But like you said, essentially, we just need to get to the point of protecting our mental health, do what we have to do to get away from it for a little bit, become ourselves, and then eventually tap back in. One thing I do want to ask you real quick before we let you go, in the event that someone's preference for a candidate does not win, how should they handle that outcome mentally with, accepting the fact that the person that you voted for did not win?
That's a tough one. Yeah, because we're essentially given a choice. Would you like the red pill or the blue pill? And we make our choice, and then that might not be what we're getting. So it is, yeah, that's difficult. I think it's important for people to take an inventory of themselves to see, am I just struggling to adapt here and I need to take my time to do so? Or am I really noticing a difference in my mood and functioning broadly and chronically? Is it impacting my relationships, my job, my school? And maybe at that certain point, people might need some kind of professional support. But ultimately, turning to those things, those factors that are within your control, and seeking social support, and connecting with the people that are meaningful in your life.
Yep, I agree. Do what you have to do to stay grounded and just bring yourself right back to life and to yourself. We appreciate you so much for your time, Sarah. Any last words, advice for anyone, general advice regarding mental health or just health in general?
Yeah, just that it's normal to struggle. I think everyone's kind of on the same page right now, and I think we are social creatures, and we are not supposed to do it alone. So if you need support, reach out for some support.
That was a great point, actually. That was a great, great point. I'm so glad you said that. And thank you again for your time and your information. Once again, clinical health psychologist and clinic director for Ellie Mental Health, Sarah Mendelsheim. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Some very helpful advice from Sarah and the team over at Ellie Mental Health as we approach this election, and it is election day itself today. We cast our votes, and hopefully soon after we'll know the results, and that may relieve stress for some or cause some stress for others, but nonetheless, these are good strategies for us to employ and things to think about, new perspectives to take as we take in this election day and everything that comes after it from this presidential election and those ever important local races as well. We appreciate her time and her insight from Ellie Mental Health. Look, we could all use a day off after a very tough election season that we've all been through. Caregivers in our community work very hard, day in and day out, taking care of our loved ones, our family, and even those that they are hired to help take care of that have a number of different diseases or conditions that they need that constant around-the-clock help with. And one local organization in our community is hoping to give those caregivers their due day off. That is the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program, whose director, Deb Benuni, joins us now on the Splash Live to talk about their special A Caregiver's Day Off event. Debbie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on as we provide a really necessary service to people that are providing vital services to people across our local area. What inspired the Caregivers Day Off, and how does it really support the mission of the program that you're involved in?
So the Brown program is a dementia-specific adult day program. It's a partnership between Gesher Human Services and Jewish Senior Life. And Monday through Friday, we provide engaging enrichments to people who are living with cognitive changes, a diagnosis, and we provide support to their care partners. So we were trying to figure out what it is that we can do. Of course, we can provide resources, we can provide referrals, we can provide respite, but what more? And one of the biggest struggles that care partners have is taking the time to take care of themselves. So we are so lucky that we have a gracious funder from the Dee Dee and Michael Perlman Caregivers Fund, who allows us to run this program at no cost to the people who attend in the community twice a year. So this November 10th, Sunday, we will be having a day off for caregivers where their loved one with a diagnosis can attend program at our West Bloomfield Brown Center, and they get to spend the day at Soul Cafe.
And we know that in the greater West Bloomfield area and West Bloomfield Township, a large sum of our population is that elder population that in many of these cases are those that are most heavily affected by dementia and are most in need of these caregiving services. So in relation to all of that and in relation to this special day off event for these caregivers, how does the location in West Bloomfield help to provide greater accessibility to this kind of service?
So the nice thing is that when the discussions first started about the need for a Dementia Day program, there were two agencies that decided to partner up. So one agency is Gesher Human Services, and they're located in Southfield. And the other agency is Jewish Senior Life, who has programs both in Oak Park and in West Bloomfield. So the idea was to have two locations that could allow us to serve a greater number of people. And with this program taking place in West Bloomfield and the event taking place less than a mile away, it really does make it accessible to people throughout the community. Transportation can sometimes be a hardship. So for us to be able to have these two locations really does allow us to be available to more people.
And this is a really important opportunity for those caregivers to get a little bit of that relief, because the work that they're doing to provide this really necessary day after day care to people that are afflicted with dementia in our community, it is laborious, it is stressful for them, and it can be tough for them to experience. So, what are some of those unique challenges that these caregivers in particular face, and why does that make something like this that much more impactful?
So they face multiple situations, right? And some are specific to people caring for someone with a cognitive altering diagnosis, and some are based on caregivers in general. One is isolation. You're so focused on taking care of your family member that you don't have time to see your friends or do the things that you've done in the past. So there's isolation. There's also other health issues. You're so busy taking care of someone else that you postpone your doctor's appointment or things of that nature, so your health suffers. Really, this day off is so important because we talk about how to take care of yourself, where to find time for it, that it's not selfish to do something for yourself. You're actually creating an opportunity to be a better care partner to your family member who is going through this disease. And it also builds community. We create this event and people make friends with other people that understand what they're going through. If they have to cancel plans or change something, they have this new support network that are all of people who understand, even though it's their own journey, understand what they may be going through.
Debbie Benuni is with us. She's the director of the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program as they get ready for this weekend, their second Dementia Caregivers Day Off event coming up. You can register for that event as we speak by calling Sherilyn Rowe from her team at 248-592-5032 or emailing srowe, that's SROWE, at jslmi.org. Debbie, you mentioned the social connections that form from something like this Caregivers Day Off, allowing these caregivers to meet one another, maybe share some ideas, share some strategies. How important can that be? And when they do get back to their caregiving work, providing better service to those that they're caring for and ultimately maybe relieve some of those stresses that they feel in that caregiving work?
It's absolutely crucial. How many times have you mentioned a situation that you're in to a friend and they say, oh, have you tried this? Have you looked into that? We find oftentimes there's a stigma with dementia, and so fewer people are talking about it, which, in addition to the isolation we've already mentioned, also creates fewer resources. So building that network, number one, allows you to understand that you are not alone, even if your journey is separate. It also provides additional ideas and feedback of things that people have tried before you. And it also gives you the allowance to understand that you can be frustrated, you can be tired, you can be scared, and that's okay while you're doing this meaningful, important work.
You can find even more information on the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day program by visiting their website, brownadultday.org. That will also give you more information on these Caregivers Day Off events coming up, including this weekend, November 10th. There will be one coming up, and then, as Debbie mentioned, they usually do 2 of these each and every year. Debbie, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like us to know about your program and how it helps these caregivers and those that are dementia patients in Greater West Bloomfield get the care that they need and the services that they need each and every day?
Absolutely. So just to say again, the Brown program is a partnership of Gesher Human Services and Jewish Senior Life. We have 2 day programs that run Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. And that entire day is filled with engagement, whether it's exercise, music, pet visits, brain games. That day is full of activity and engagement. And we have seen that constant level of engagement does help slow the progression. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, we saw people that went from this activity to sitting home, and we saw a huge difference in their progression. And we're consistently providing support for our care partners through support groups, through referrals, through resources, through holiday services, through this day off event that's funded by Dee Dee and Michael Perlman Caregivers Fund. And so for somebody who's looking for a day off, this is the perfect time to reach out to us. And somebody who may need the support every day of the week, we're here as well.
brownadultday.org is their website. And to register for this Caregivers Day Off event, you need to talk to Sherilyn Rowe from their team. Again, that phone number, 248-592-5032, 248-592-5032. Debbie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Tyler.
Glad to have you on. Debbie Benuni, the director of the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day program, sponsoring and leading the charge on this Caregivers Day Off event for those that are providing care to dementia patients across the Greater West Bloomfield area. That's coming up this weekend, Sunday, November 10th. We'll take a break on the Splash Live happening today. Of course, all eyes and all thoughts on election season. We'll have an expert on elections and politics and how this whole cycle may end up turning out, as well as how your vote may impact that here in Oakland County, in Michigan, and across the nation. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Find us on Instagram at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff.
That's what white people think.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I'm Gina Gregory, president of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. I'm excited that Civic Center TV has reached 1 million views on YouTube. Congratulations, that's just terrific. We appreciate everything Civic Center does for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and the community. For us, they promote and highlight our events. It's awesome to have them available 24/7 on YouTube. I'm Gina Gregory and proud to be 1 in a million.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft. Thank you for joining us on this election day in Greater West Bloomfield and across the nation as all eyes are on the presidential election. One of the key swing states is right here in the state of Michigan, and your vote in Greater West Bloomfield could have a major impact on the outcome of our state's 15 electoral votes. Joining us for more insight on how your vote may ultimately impact the decision of the presidency at the end of the day or end of this process is Dave Dulio, Distinguished Professor of Political Science at Oakland University and also the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, and perfect time to have you on to talk about this election because we've heard for weeks, we've heard for months, we've heard for the last 4 years that Michigan's going to be a key state in the 2024 election. But diving deeper into that, getting more into the nitty-gritty of why that's the case, one of the big factors in that is Oakland County. And so as much as we go into every election telling everybody that their vote really matters, that every single one of their votes matters, how much do individual voters in Greater West Bloomfield today in this election, how much can they be assured that their vote is not only one that matters, but could be critical in deciding our next president?
Sure. I think Oakland County can tell the story of this election in terms of how Michigan goes and how our 15 electoral votes are allocated. And I say that because, number one, Oakland County's got a huge number of votes, right? But it's also been changing and shifting over the last 20 years or so. But if we just take the last couple of presidential elections, you can see how big of an impact it has. Where in 2016, Donald Trump lost Oakland County, but by only 50,000 votes. In 2020, he loses Oakland County by more than double that, 108,000 votes. And then in 2022, Gretchen Whitmer carries Oakland County by 145,000 votes, right? So we see this pretty big shift toward Democratic candidates at the top of the ticket over the last 3 cycles. And I think that's, something to look at tonight. And we'll be able to watch it as returns come in. You can watch it on the Oakland County website. You can see how different areas are voting. So, I would tell your viewers and listeners to look at Oakland County and see if Trump can hold down those losses, and if, alternatively, if Harris can run up the score.
And those results will come in, the unofficial results from Oakland County throughout the night. We have a link to that at the very top of our homepage as we speak on civiccentertv.com. The polls close at 8 o'clock tonight. As long as you're in line by 8 o'clock, your voice will be able to be heard through your vote, and those election results will cycle in. Now, in the state of Michigan, much like many other states, Dave, early voting playing a huge role in these elections. The Detroit Free Press reporting that 1.2 million people have already voted in the state of Michigan, 153,000, almost 154,000 of those right here in Oakland County. How might that impact when we know some of those results that we'll see from Michigan, and if we know the results of the 15 electoral votes today?
Yeah, I think a big change from the last presidential election is that communities in Michigan are able to start to process absentee ballots 8 days before Election Day. So the vast majority of places in Michigan have started to open those envelopes, do the signature verification, and start to get them through that process. I think that will speed things up. But, who knows when we'll have final results and know, say, how our 15 electoral votes are allocated. And I think that it really just depends on how close it is. The polls, as you've seen, say that it's razor thin, and I have no reason not to believe that. But, polls have been wrong before. So if it does happen to be more of a margin, I think we'll know earlier, right? But if it's as close as everybody seems to think it is, it'll probably take a couple of days.
And we know that in Oakland County, a lot of these local races, we do tend to see those results come in a lot quicker than we'd see for something that's decided at the statewide level, like the state's senator for the U.S. Senate, or of course the presidential electoral votes result that may be coming on later on. But how much then, as we look at those local political races, those partisan races in greater West Bloomfield and then spread throughout Oakland County, how might that sort of be a bellwether for what we see down the road as those presidential election results come in?
Yeah, I think it could certainly start to tell the tale, right? I mean, I think if we look at margins from past races, if we look at, say, a state house district in Rochester Hills, I think, and there's a competitive one there, right? Does that tell us anything? It could, if one of the two candidates pulls it out, right? For instance, and the one I'm thinking of is State Representative Mark Tisdall. If he manages to win that by, say, more than he did last time, well, that's a really good sign for Trump. Now, if it becomes a nail biter and his opponent gives him more of a scare than anticipated, well, that's probably a good sign for Harris. So I think that there are some things we can read the tea leaves on, but at the end of the day, it's really hard to project other outcomes from one or two local races.
And some of those others to keep an eye on in our local area that could maybe show big swings. You'd think about the State House's 20th district between Noah Arbit, the incumbent Democrat, and Brendan Cowley. That would be quite a big surprise considering how the local community has gone in recent elections, and especially the U.S. House of Representatives race in the 11th district with Haley Stevens and West Bloomfield's Nick Somberg. Now, if those big swings were to happen, that would be quite jarring, and that would tell a lot of the story. But from what you're saying, these races sort of down the ballot higher up, those state senators, those U.S. senators, the U.S. representatives, probably not going to play that big of a role unless there's a major swing.
Those are two great examples because, the outcome there, I mean, Noah Arbit's going to win. Haley Stevens is going to win. But the margins can tell us a difference, right? And we might be able to see some shifts in voter turnout in certain areas that might give us a clue as to how things are playing across Michigan. And it's kind of fun to try to figure it out that way, right? I mean, so I imagine some of your viewers and listeners are going to spend the night refreshing those screens at oakgov.com and see if they can't read those tea leaves themselves.
That's going to be my night also. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on that. I know your team also will over at Oakland University and the Center for Civic Engagement. Dave Dulio is with us on the show today from Oakland University, a professor of political science and the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. And Dave, I want to get your perspective on this because we always hear so much about the presidential election, or we've heard, especially in the ads, about the U.S. Senator race between Mike Rogers and Alyssa Slotkin, but those local election races are really so important. And so as you're teaching your students about how political science ultimately plays out, not only nationally, statewide, regionally, but in these local communities, what really is that importance of those down ballot positions that are those local city council members, those parks and recreation commissioners, and how those ultimately impact local communities and future elections?
Yeah, it's a great point. And we obviously, and for good reason, spend a lot of time talking about the race for the presidency or for a U.S. Senate or U.S. House, right? But it's really those local levels where citizens and residents are going to come in contact with government more often and on issues that are really close to home, right? I mean, let's give you an example, right? School board, right? The school board is going to make decisions for folks who have kids in schools that really are front and center, and you can extend it to city council or mayor, village council, township trustees, right? They're gonna be the ones making decisions on local services, how garbage gets picked up, how streets get plowed, right? And when you want those things to happen, those are the folks you go to, and those are the folks you are gonna interact with most about things that are really impacting daily life more often than not.
And as you're watching, as you're listening, and Dave goes down that list, a lot of those issues did hit close to home in our community in the past several months and over the last 4 years during this election. So it does very much play out in Greater West Bloomfield and surrounding areas. Dave, before we let you go, you're the director of the Center for Civic Engagement. A lot of work's been done leading up to this election to try to maybe prevent more of that gasoline from being thrown onto the fire in the rhetoric that's out in this election. But we know it doesn't finish. We learned from 2020 that it doesn't finish once the results are in and the election cycle is over. So what maybe is on the docket going forward at the Center for Civic Engagement that can help people kind of put this election into context, put it in the rearview mirror, and maybe hopefully soften that rhetoric that we've had across our communities in Oakland County and beyond going forward?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. A week from today at 12:30 on campus, we're going to have an election debrief where a colleague of mine and I are going to go through the results and try to explain those results, what happened and why. And I think it'll be really fascinating. We'll be able to dig into the data and the exit polls, the returns, and really give folks a sense of whoever wins, how they were able to pull it off.
More information can be found on Oakland University's website, and you can also find more by following the Center for Civic Engagement on their Facebook page as well at OUCCE. Dave, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Dave Dulio from Oakland University, Distinguished Professor of Political Science and the Director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Great insight on how our county will be very consequential in the presidential election and how our community here in Greater West Bloomfield will be extremely consequential in the county. Looking at the population from the 2020 census, I did some research on this morning because Oakland County is one of the most populous areas in the entire state of Michigan, and in Oakland County, our population very, very heavy in Greater West Bloomfield. You combine West Bloomfield with the Tri-Cities of Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake. It's about 72,000 people across the Greater West Bloomfield area, which alone would make our community the fourth largest in the entire county. That could play a huge role in the results of our elections that affect us locally, of course, affect us county-wide, and affect us statewide as well. As Michigan's 15 electoral votes in the balance tonight, one of the key swing states in Oakland County, marked by the Detroit News as their 3rd out of 10 most important counties in the state of Michigan that could decide the fate of those 15 electoral votes. Close to home in Greater West Bloomfield, some things you need to know as you continue through your election day. For those of you that want to take a little bit of a break, maybe read a good book, escape from election mania and go to the library. The main library on Walnut Lake Road in West Bloomfield is closed for the duration of election day. Of course, it is one of our election precincts, so it will not be open on this Tuesday of the election, but it will reopen as we go forward this week. However, the West Acres branch is open today, so you can still take that detour, go to the library, enjoy a little bit of quiet time and all of those regular services that you expect from the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. More information and updates on when the main library will reopen following today's election can be found on WBLIB.org or on Facebook at West Bloom LIB. In addition, if you're looking for a ride around the community today to get you to and from your polling location or at least nearby across Oakland County, SMART is providing free bus rides for Election Day voters all throughout this Tuesday, not only in Oakland County, but also in Macomb and Wayne counties as well. All SMART transit services, including those fixed routes, connector services, ADA paratransit, and Smart Flex will be free all the way up to 11:59 p.m. on this election day. So it's the second time they've done this for the elections. You can get more information on them by visiting their website on smartbus.org. Again, that would be smartbus.org for more information. And we know these elections affect us right here directly in our community. Dave Dulio from Oakland University just gave us some great examples of exactly how that manifests. In West Bloomfield Township, our local elections may very well impact the future planning for West Bloomfield Township. Wade Burkholder is the Deputy Director of their Development and Planning Services Department at West Bloomfield Township, who joins us now to talk more about their process of revamping their master plan. Wade, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about this because it's something that usually happens behind the scenes, but the people of West Bloomfield have a chance to provide some insight on this, and it plays a really critical role in the future of our community. So take us through the master plan process and why this really is a critical thing for our community going forward for years to come.
Sure, absolutely. The township currently has a master plan dated back to 2010. So a lot has changed over the last 15 years in terms of, the vision and the goals for the community. So what this master plan project entails is development of a new plan, building on the old 2010 master plan to guide the long-range policy decisions of the township leadership, create a plan for the future development of the community, all while creating the goals and objectives that the community has in mind. What we are doing right now is we just kicked off the process, and we are in a time period for community input. So over the next 2 to 3 months, we will be reaching out to the community to talk to them about their vision, what they would like to see for West Bloomfield Township, how they would like to see the growth and development happen, where the appropriate growth and development should happen, and so forth. So once we, hear and meet with the public, we will take what we hear and start crafting those goals and objectives into the plan. So over the next 10 to 15 years, we will know where we need to focus on with regard to development and transportation and housing concerns and those sorts of quality of life issues that every community faces. But like I said, we are about 15 years into our old master plan, so it's time to update.
And you mentioned community input playing a really big role in this. What do the people of West Bloomfield, what do the businesses and the organizations of West Bloomfield want to see in their community for the future? And you mentioned they're going to have a number of opportunities, a number of different ways to provide that input. Now, what does that look like in the coming months? Are those going to be town halls? Is that during our municipal meetings, maybe a combination of both?
There's a combination of both. For example, last evening we participated in the trick or treat event with West Bloomfield Parks, and we were able to reach out to approximately 600 young families in the community, and we have developed a survey for any member of the community to take, and I can provide that web link at the end. It'll ask specific questions, regarding housing, regarding the types of uses that are available. And by uses, I mean, do we need more retail? Do we need more restaurants? What kind of things would you like to see in West Bloomfield Township? We are also planning to attend a few of the Connect happy hours, as well as doing individual stakeholder interviews. We're going to be talking to the Chamber of Commerce to get the small business, viewpoints on the community. We'll be talking to developers that have built some of our larger projects here in the last few years. The school district, we intend to reach out to get a younger student perspective, because they always have a little different viewpoint, being younger, and what they would like to see the community to develop into. And so we also have 2 open houses planned between now and the end of the year to have and invite the overall general public to attend as well, so we can make sure to hear their views and thoughts on how the development should occur over the next decade or so.
You can find more information on all the business being done through West Bloomfield Township on their website, wbtownship.org. Another great opportunity for you to learn more about how development happens behind the scenes is to tune in to municipal meeting coverage with us here at Civic Center TV, with broadcasts of both the West Bloomfield Township Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission meetings regularly on our live channel and available on demand on civiccentertv.com. Wade Burkholder is with us, the Deputy Director of West Bloomfield's Planning and Zoning Departments, as we talk about their master plan revisions going forward. And Wade, this plays a big role in the vision of the future of the community, but it can also have a major impact on economic development of our community and sustainability for the township going forward. How does economic development and, of course, sustainability, creating a community that can last as it is for years and be helpful to its residents and others, how does that factor into what goes into ultimately remastering that plan for the community?
Sure. Well, we look at things like our current demographics. We look at the types of housing we have and what types of housing we may be lacking in. We look at certain opportunity zones where there may be some vacant land, vacant parcels that may develop into a housing complex or new housing, or we may look at a shortage of assisted living facilities, or we may look at specific uses that the market is missing here in West Bloomfield, and we can set goals that will influence township policies to attract those items that we are currently lacking or need more of. We also look at the master plan and how the effects on the environmental features, such as the wetlands and woodlands, are being affected. So what the master plan really is a tool for is it is a tool for future changes to our zoning code, to our woodland ordinance. So the master plan is just the overall vision and guide, but when you get into those other documents, those are actually the regulations. So the master plan will inform those other documents, and we will have checked in and vetted this through the community, through the planning commission, and through the township board to know where we really need to focus on. So with regard to all of those different areas of the community, land use, transportation, environmental features, sustainability, such as do we want to be a forefront or be a leader on the electric vehicle sector out there now, which is growing in popularity. So there's a lot of new techniques and a lot of new ideas that the 2010 master plan did not, anticipate, where we now have some new vision and new ideas that are floating out there. And it's a matter of, getting West Bloomfield Township to be the forefront and the forerunner in some of these situations and areas that I think we have a good opportunity to guide through this process.
Wait, about 30 seconds left with you here, but before we go, you mentioned that there's going to be plenty of conversations and opportunities for input throughout the rest of this year. Overall, as we're looking at the timeline on the master plan revisions, when can people expect for this to be maybe up for a vote or up for a full overview?
Yes, we are targeting August of 2025, so just a little under a year from now. And once we get this initial public outreach completed, we aren't going away. So you will still have time to comment once the plan is actually drafted.
We appreciate Wade for his time and joining us on today's edition of The Splash Live to tell us more about the master plan process here in the greater West Bloomfield area and specifically in West Bloomfield Township. That is our time for this edition of The Splash Live. We thank you for tuning in and always encourage you to stay with us on our website on civiccentertv.com. That's where you'll get access to those election results as the unofficial results come in through Oakland County tonight. You can also follow along with us for more information on our Facebook page at Civic Center TV 15 and on YouTube at Civic Center TV. For our entire team at Master Control, Calvin Brown, and out in the field, Kevin McIntosh and Jake Schaff, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thanks for tuning in to Splash Live.